The cardboard wasn't doing much against the November cold, but it was better than nothing. Maya Torres sat with her back pressed against the brick wall of a shuttered bakery on the corner of West 43rd and 9th Avenue, watching the pre-dawn darkness slowly fade into gray. Her breath came out in visible puffs, mixing with the steam rising from the subway grates across the street. 6 months. 6 months since the eviction notice. 6 months since the hospital bills from her father's final weeks had consumed every penny she'd saved. 6 months since Maya had gone from being a financial analyst with a corner office to being invisible on the streets of Manhattan. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. She pulled her thin jacket tighter, the one she'd been wearing the day everything fell apart. It still had her old security badge clipped to the pocket, a reminder of who she used to be. Maya Rodriguez, senior analyst, Hartwell and Associates. The laminated photo showed a different woman, hair styled, makeup perfect, confident smile. That woman felt like a stranger now. Her stomach growled, sharp and insistent. Maya reached into the pocket of her jacket and pulled out what she had left. $1 bill, crumpled and soft from being folded and unfolded 100 times. 63 cents in change. A granola bar she'd been saving, now crushed into crumbs at the bottom of her pocket. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, all wrapped up in $1.63. She could make it stretch. The bodega 2 blocks down sold day-old bagels for 75 cents. That left enough for coffee from the cart on 42nd, the one where the vendor sometimes didn't charge her full price if business was slow. She'd learned to read his moods, to time her approach for maximum sympathy. Maya hated it. Hated the calculations, the strategic, begging disguised as transactions, the way she'd learned to make herself small and pitiful to extract kindness from strangers. But survival required math, and she'd always been good at math. A man stumbled past her, drunk or high, muttering to himself. Maya pressed harder against the wall, making herself invisible. That was another skill she'd learned. How to disappear in plain sight, how to read danger in the set of someone's shoulders, the quickness of their stride. The city was waking up now. Delivery trucks rumbled down 9th Avenue. Early commuters emerged from the subway, clutching coffee cups and staring at their phones. A jogger ran past, expensive sneakers hitting the pavement in a steady rhythm, noise-canceling headphones blocking out the world. None of them looked at Maya. She might as well have been part of the architecture. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. 5% battery left. She'd charged it at the public library yesterday, but that wouldn't last much longer. The phone was her lifeline, her last connection to the world she'd lost, but also a countdown timer to complete disconnection. She checked the screen. An email from her former colleague, Jessica, the 4th one this month that Maya hadn't answered. Maya, please call me. I can help. There are programs, resources. You don't have to do this alone. Maya deleted it without responding. Jessica meant well, but help came with questions, with pity, with the inevitable involvement of systems that Maya couldn't face. Social services meant paperwork, meant people knowing how far she'd fallen, meant admitting that she couldn't fix this herself. Pride. That's what her father would have called it. Stupid, stubborn pride that kept her sleeping on cardboard instead of asking for help. But her father was dead, and the medical bills from his final month of futile treatment had made sure Maya couldn't afford to keep their apartment, couldn't afford anything except the clothes on her back and the small backpack that held everything she owned now. A pigeon landed near her feet, pecking at invisible crumbs. Maya watched it with something close to kinship, both of them scrounging for survival in a city that had millions but shared nothing. The sun was coming up properly now, painting the buildings across the street in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful. If you had the luxury of appreciating beauty. Maya just felt the cold settling deeper into her bones. She needed to move soon. The bakery owner would arrive by 7, and he'd chase her away from his doorway. She'd learned that lesson the hard way 2 weeks ago. Some shopkeepers tolerated the homeless, seeing them as part of the neighborhood landscape. Others saw them as bad for business and called the police at the first opportunity. Maya gathered her cardboard, folding it carefully. She'd stash it in the usual place, an alley between 2 buildings where a dumpster provided cover. Then she'd make her way to the bodega, buy that bagel, ration it through the day. She stood slowly, her muscles protesting. Sleeping on concrete did things to your body, made you feel decades older than 29. Maya hoisted her backpack, adjusted the straps, and stepped onto the sidewalk. That's when she saw him. At first, Maya thought he was another homeless person. He sat on the curb, half a block down, head in his hands, expensive suit covered in dirt and what looked like blood. His dark hair was disheveled, and even from a distance, Maya could see his shoulders shaking. But something was different. His shoes, for one thing. Even filthy, they were quality. Leather, probably Italian, the kind that cost more than Maya's entire former wardrobe. And his watch, partially visible beneath a torn sleeve, caught the morning light with the unmistakable gleam of real gold. A businessman who'd had a very bad night. Mugged, maybe. Or a banker who'd celebrated too hard and ended up in the wrong neighborhood. Maya should keep walking. Should mind her business. The first rule of street survival was to stay invisible. Don't get involved. Don't draw attention. But the man looked up, and Maya saw his face. He was maybe 40, with sharp features that might have been handsome under different circumstances. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Dark eyes that held something Maya recognized instantly, because she saw it in her own reflection every time she passed a storefront window. Desperation. The bone-deep kind that came from losing everything and not knowing how to find your way back. The man's gaze locked with hers for just a moment. No recognition, no acknowledgement of shared humanity. Just a brief flicker of awareness before he looked away, returning his attention to the pavement. Maya's hand closed around the dollar bill in her pocket. Her last dollar. Her breakfast, her coffee, her carefully calculated survival for the day. She thought about her father in those final weeks, how strangers at the hospital had shown small kindnesses. A nurse who'd stayed past her shift to sit with him. A janitor who'd brought Maya coffee without being asked. Tiny acts that hadn't changed the outcome but had made the unbearable slightly more bearable. What goes around comes around, her father used to say. You put good into the world, and the world remembers. The world hadn't remembered when Maya needed it. The world had taken her father, taken her apartment, taken her dignity, and left her with cardboard and crushed granola bars. But maybe that didn't matter. Maybe you put good into the world not because it would be returned, but because refusing to do so meant letting the world make you as cold and hard as the concrete you slept on. Maya walked toward the man before she could talk herself out of it. He didn't look up as she approached, didn't acknowledge her presence even when she stood directly in front of him. Up close, she could see the blood on his collar was fresh, still wet. A cut on his temple had bled down the side of his face and dried in dark streaks. "Hey," Maya said softly. No response. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The man's laugh was bitter, hollow. "Help, that's rich." His voice surprised her. Cultured, educated, with an accent that suggested old New York money. Not what she'd expected from someone sitting bloody and broken on a Manhattan curb at dawn. "You're hurt," Maya said, stating the obvious. "I'm a lot of things." He finally looked up at her, those dark eyes focusing with effort. But hurt is pretty far down the list. There was a story here. A big one. Maya could feel it in the way he held himself, the tension in his shoulders, the way his hand kept moving toward his jacket pocket, and then stopping, as if reaching for something that wasn't there anymore. "There's a coffee cart 2 blocks that way," Maya heard herself saying. "Guy opens at 6, makes decent coffee, sells day-old pastries cheap. I don't have any money," he said it flatly, without shame or embarrassment. Just a fact. Maya pulled out her dollar bill. It looked even more pathetic in the morning light, worn thin from use, barely holding together. "Here." She held it out. The man stared at the dollar like it was a bomb. "What?" "For coffee, or whatever you need. You're giving me money." His tone was strange, caught between disbelief and something darker. Anger, maybe, or pain. "It's not much, just $1, but it's enough for coffee." "Why?" The question hung in the cold air between them. Why would someone who clearly had nothing give away what little she possessed? Maya thought about how to answer. "Because you looked like I feel. Because small kindnesses might be all we have left. Because my father taught me that dignity isn't about what you own. It's about how you treat people when you have nothing left to gain. Because you look like you could use it," she finally said. The man took the dollar with fingers that trembled slightly. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. He studied it, then looked up at Maya with an expression she couldn't read. "What's your name?" "Maya, Maya." He repeated it slowly, as if memorizing it. "I'm Dante." "Nice to meet you, Dante." She started to turn away, already regretting the impulse. That dollar had been her safety net, and now she'd given it to a stranger who probably had more resources than she could imagine, despite his current appearance. Wait. Maya paused. Dante was standing now, and she realized he was tall, well over 6 feet. Even disheveled and bloody, there was something commanding about his presence. Something that suggested he was used to people listening when he spoke. You just gave me your last dollar. It wasn't a question. But Maya nodded anyway. Why? I already told you. No. Dante stepped closer. Not threatening, but intense. You gave me some bullshit about me looking like I need it. But people don't do that. People don't give away their last dollar to a stranger on the street. Maya met his gaze steadily. Maybe they should. For a long moment, they stood there, two people who'd lost everything, connected by a crumpled dollar bill and the strange intimacy of shared desperation. Then Dante smiled. It was barely there, just a slight curve of his mouth, but it transformed his face. For just a second, Maya saw who he might be under all the blood and exhaustion. Someone powerful, someone dangerous, someone who smiled rarely, which made it matter when he did. Come with me, he said. What? To get coffee. You gave me your last dollar. Least I can do is split it with you. Maya should say no. Should walk away from this strange, intense man with his expensive shoes and hollow eyes. Should stick to the plan, stay invisible, stay safe. But she'd already broken her own rules by giving away her money. Might as well see where it led. Okay, she said. They walked side by side down 9th Avenue, an odd pair. The homeless woman in her thin jacket and worn sneakers. The man in the filthy $1,000 suit. Neither one belonging in this pre-dawn world, but somehow fitting together anyway. The coffee cart was just opening when they arrived. The vendor, a Pakistani man named Hassan, who'd always been kind to Maya, looked up with his usual smile. Then he saw Dante, and something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe. Or fear. 2 coffees, Dante said, his voice carrying an authority that seemed at odds with his appearance. And whatever pastries you have. Hassan's hands shook slightly as he poured the coffee. He kept glancing at Dante, then away, then back again, like he couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. That'll be $6, Hassan said quietly. Maya's stomach sank. $6 for coffee and pastries. Her $1 wouldn't even cover it. But Dante was reaching into his jacket, pulling out a money clip from an inner pocket. Maya caught a glimpse of cash, a lot of cash, before Dante peeled off a $100 bill and handed it to Hassan. Keep the change, Dante said. Hassan took the money with trembling hands. Mr. Castellano, I heard about what happened. I'm so sorry. If there's anything, there's nothing, Dante interrupted, his voice cold. And the name is Dante. Just Dante. Maya's mind was racing. Mr. Castellano. She knew that name. Everyone in New York knew that name. The Castellano family had been front-page news for decades. Organized crime, racketeering, enough money and power to buy judges and politicians. And this man, this bloody, desperate man sitting on a curb accepting her last dollar, was one of them. Dante handed her a coffee and a cheese Danish without looking at her. His attention was fixed on the street, scanning the early morning crowd with eyes that missed nothing. You have money, Maya said quietly. It wasn't an accusation, just a statement of confused fact. I have cash. That's different from having money. I don't understand. Dante finally looked at her. 3 days ago, I had everything. Property, businesses, respect, power. 48 hours ago, my own family tried to kill me. 24 hours ago, I had nothing but the cash in my pocket and the clothes on my back. He took a long sip of coffee. So, no, Maya. I don't have money. I have a $100 bill and a death sentence. The words hung between them, stark and terrifying in their simplicity. Your family tried to kill you, Maya repeated slowly. My cousin, specifically. Luca Castellano. He orchestrated a coup, convinced the other families that I was cooperating with the feds, showed them fabricated evidence, paid witnesses to lie. Dante's jaw clenched. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. They voted me out, stripped my rank, put a price on my head. Maya should run. Should grab her coffee and disappear into the city before she got caught up in whatever dangerous world this man inhabited. But her feet stayed planted on the sidewalk. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you gave me your last dollar. Dante's voice softened. And because in the past 3 days, You're the only person who looked at me and saw a human being instead of a target or a traitor or a corpse waiting to happen." He reached into his jacket again and pulled out the money clip. The $100 bill Hassan had made change from was gone, but there were more underneath, maybe $500 or $600 total. "This is all I have left," Dante said. "Everything else, my accounts, my properties, my resources, they're frozen or seized or being watched. This cash is the only thing standing between me and ending up in the Hudson River." "Then you shouldn't have spent $100 on coffee." Dante smiled again, that rare expression that suggested he wasn't used to being challenged. "Probably not. But Hassan's been selling coffee on this corner for 15 years. He's never asked questions, never talked to cops, never caused problems. That loyalty deserves to be rewarded." He held out 5 $20 bills toward Maya. "What's this?" she asked, even though it was obvious. "Payment for a cup of coffee and half a Danish. That's $100. I'm aware. I gave you $1, and that $1 meant more than any amount I've ever spent." Dante's expression was serious now, intense. "You had nothing and you gave anyway. That's worth more than money. That's worth everything." Maya stared at the bills in his hand. $100 would mean shelter for a few nights, real food, a chance to charge her phone, maybe clean up, maybe start putting pieces back together. But accepting it felt wrong, like taking advantage of someone who was barely surviving himself. "I can't," she said. "You can and you will." Dante's voice carried that command again, the tone of someone used to being obeyed. "Consider it an investment." "In what?" "In good karma, in paying forward a kindness, in whatever you want." He pressed the money into her hand, closing her fingers around it. "Take it, Maya, please." His hand was warm against hers, calloused in strange places, like he'd done manual labor despite the expensive suit. His touch was gentle but firm, making it clear he wasn't going to take no for an answer. Maya looked down at the money in her hand, then up at this strange, dangerous man who'd somehow become connected to her in the space of one sunrise. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet." Dante pulled his hand away, his expression darkening. "Helping me might be the worst decision you ever make." Before Maya could ask what he meant, a black SUV turned onto 9th Avenue. It moved slowly, deliberately, scanning the street. Dante saw it at the same moment Maya did. His entire body tensed, and suddenly the exhausted man on the curb was gone. In his place stood something else, something predatory and dangerous. "Get behind me," he said quietly. "What?" "Now, Maya. Get behind me now." She didn't argue. Something in his voice, in the sudden coiled violence of his posture, made her obey instinctively. The SUV was getting closer. Maya could see faces inside now, 2 men in the front seat. The passenger was talking on a phone, his eyes scanning the sidewalk. Dante's hand moved to his waistband, reaching for something that wasn't there. He cursed under his breath. "No gun," he muttered. "Of course no gun. Luca made sure of that." The SUV was half a block away now. The men inside had definitely seen them. Maya watched the passenger point in their direction, saw him say something urgent into his phone. "Listen to me carefully," Dante said, his voice deadly calm. "In about 30 seconds, those men are going to stop this car and try to grab me. When they do, you run. You run as fast as you can and you don't look back. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. Everyone has a choice." Dante glanced back at her, and for just a moment, something flickered in his dark eyes. Surprise, maybe, or respect. "You're either very brave or very stupid," he said. "Probably both." The SUV was 20 feet away now, slowing down. The passenger door was opening. Dante tensed, preparing for whatever came next. And Maya, who'd spent 6 months learning to be invisible, learning to run and hide and survive, made a choice. She stepped forward, putting herself between Dante and the approaching vehicle. "What are you doing?" Dante hissed. "Something stupid and brave," Maya said. The SUV stopped, and everything changed. The passenger who stepped out of the SUV was younger than Maya expected, maybe 30, with slicked back hair and a leather jacket that screamed expensive but tried to look casual. His eyes were cold, calculating, and they swept over Maya with the dismissive assessment of someone used to seeing through obstacles rather than around them. "Dante Castellano," the man said, his voice carrying a thick Brooklyn accent. "Thought you'd be halfway to Mexico by now." "Disappointed?" Dante's voice. This was casual, but Maya could feel the tension radiating from his body behind her. Nah, makes my job easier. The man's gaze finally settled on Maya, really seeing her for the first time. Who's the girl? New girlfriend? Didn't take you for the charity case type. Maya felt Dante's hand on her shoulder, firm and warning. She's nobody, Dante said. Just someone who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Let her go, Marco. This is between me and Luca. Marco smiled, but there was no warmth in it. See, that's where you're wrong, Dante. Nothing's between you and Luca anymore. You don't have the standing to have beef with the boss. You're just a problem that needs solving. The driver's door opened. Another man emerged, bigger than Marco, with the build of someone who settled disputes with his fists. He didn't say anything, just positioned himself behind Marco, a silent threat. Hassan, the coffee cart vendor, had gone very still. Maya could see him from the corner of her eye, frozen in, the act of wiping down his counter, clearly trying to become invisible. Last chance, Marco said. Come with us quiet, and maybe Luca will make it quick. You were family once, after all. That should count for something. It didn't count for anything 3 days ago when he tried to put a bullet in my head. That was business. This is just cleanup. Maya's mind was racing. 2 men, one of them armed. She could see the bulge under Marco's jacket. Dante had no weapon. If she ran now, created a distraction, maybe Dante could. I can hear you thinking. Dante murmured behind her. Don't. I'm not doing anything. You're planning something. I can feel it. Don't. Marco was getting impatient. His hand moved toward his jacket, a clear threat. I'm not asking again, Dante. Get in the car. And if I refuse, then we do this the hard way, and your little homeless girlfriend becomes collateral damage. The word sent ice through Maya's veins. She'd spent 6 months staying invisible, getting out of trouble, surviving by never getting involved. Now she was standing in the middle of a mob confrontation because she'd given a stranger her last dollar. Her father would have laughed at the irony, then probably told her he was proud. Fine, Dante said quietly. I'll come with you. But she walks away. Right now. You let her go, and I'll get in your car without a fight. Marco considered this. How do I know she won't run to the cops? Look at her, Marco. Really look at her. Dante's voice was almost sad. She's homeless. Nobody listens to the homeless. Nobody cares what they see. She's invisible, which makes her the perfect witness to something she'll never be able to report. Marco's eyes swept over Maya again, taking in her thin jacket, her worn clothes, the backpack that held everything she owned. She saw the exact moment he dismissed her as a threat, saw the contempt flicker across his face. Yeah, okay, Marco said. Girl walks. Dante comes with us. Everybody's happy. Except nobody was happy. Maya could feel Dante's hand still on her shoulder, feel the slight tremor that suggested he was preparing for violence despite his words. Go, Dante said quietly. Now, Maya, walk away. I can't just... Yes, you can. You gave me $1 and a cup of coffee. That doesn't make you responsible for whatever happens next. His grip tightened briefly, almost gentle. You don't owe me your life. But you might owe me yours, a new voice said from behind them. Everyone turned. An older man stood at the entrance to the alley beside Hassan's coffee cart. He was maybe 60, with silver hair and a face that suggested he'd seen too much and forgotten nothing. He wore a simple gray suit, perfectly tailored, and carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who'd never had to prove his authority. Uncle Sal, Dante breathed. Jesus Christ, Marco whispered, his face going pale. The older man, Uncle Sal, walked toward them with measured steps. He didn't rush, didn't seem concerned about Marco or his silent enforcer. He moved like someone who owned the street, the city, possibly the entire world. Marco Giordano, Sal said pleasantly. How's your mother? Still making that lasagna I like? She's good, Mr. Castellano. Real good. Marco's voice had changed completely. All the swagger gone, replaced by nervous respect. Give her my regards. Tell her I'll stop by next Sunday for dinner. Sal stopped a few feet from Dante, studying him with dark eyes that looked remarkably like his nephew's. And while you're at it, tell Luca that if he wants Dante dead, he's going to have to go through me first. Mr. Castellano, I'm just following orders. Whose orders? Sal's voice remained pleasant, but something dangerous flickered beneath the surface. Because last I checked, I'm still on the commission. I still have a vote, and I don't recall voting to authorize a hit on my nephew. Marco exchanged a glance with his partner. The bigger man shifted nervously. Luca said. I don't care what Luca said. I care about what the commission authorized. Now, did the commission authorize this hit, Marco? Or did my ambitious young grandnephew decide to move without proper approval? The silence stretched out, heavy and damning. That's what I thought. Sal's expression hardened. Get back in your car, Marco. Tell Luca that Dante is under my protection now, and if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me directly. Mr. Castellano, with all respect, Luca's not going to I don't particularly care what Luca likes. Sal's voice dropped to something cold and final. What I care about is family. What I care about is doing things the right way. Dante might have made mistakes, might have enemies, but he deserves a fair hearing before the commission, not an execution in the street. He stepped closer to Marco, and despite being shorter and older, there was no question who held the power in this moment. Now, you seem like a smart young man, Marco. So I'm going to assume you understand what happens if you defy me. I'm going to assume you remember what happened to the last person who challenged my authority. Sal smiled, but it was terrifying. Do you remember, Marco? Yes, sir. I remember. Good. Then we understand each other. Marco nodded jerkily and backed toward the SUV. His partner was already in the driver's seat, engine running. Within seconds, they were gone, the black vehicle disappearing into morning traffic like it had never existed. Maya realized she'd been holding her breath. She exhaled slowly, her legs suddenly shaky. Sal turned to Dante, and his expression softened. You look like hell, boy. I feel like hell. I heard about what happened. The vote, the accusations. Sal shook his head. I was in Atlantic City when it went down. By the time I got back to New York, you'd already disappeared. I thought everyone believed Luca's lies. Some did. Some wanted to believe. Them because removing you served their interests. Sal glanced at Maya, assessing her with quick, intelligent eyes. But I've known you since you were 8 years old, Dante. I know you're many things, but a rat isn't one of them. Dante's jaw worked. Thank you, Uncle Sal. Don't thank me yet. We've got a mess to clean up, and it's going to take time. Sal pulled out his phone. First things first, we need to get you somewhere safe. Somewhere Luca can't reach you while I work on the commission. I'm not hiding. You're not dying either. Not on my watch. Sal made a call. Spoke quickly in Italian, then ended it. Carlo's bringing a car around. He'll take you to the safe house in Queens. Uncle Sal. This isn't a negotiation, Dante. The old man's voice was firm but not unkind. You want to prove Luca wrong? You want to survive long enough to clear your name? Then you swallow your pride and you let me help you. Dante nodded slowly. Then his eyes moved to Maya, who'd been standing silently through the entire exchange, trying to process what she'd just witnessed. What about her? Dante asked. Sal looked at Maya properly for the first time. She felt exposed under his gaze, like he could see through her worn clothes and dirty hair to everything she'd been, everything she'd lost. Who is she? Sal asked. Someone who showed me kindness when she had no reason to. Dante's voice was quiet. Someone who put herself between me and Marco's gun. Sal's eyebrows rose. Did she now? I didn't know what else to do, Maya said, finding her voice. It seemed like the right choice at the time. Brave and stupid, Sal observed. Those two usually go together. He studied her for another moment. What's your name, girl? Maya Torres. Maya Torres, Sal repeated. And why were you standing on 9th Avenue at dawn with my nephew? Maya explained, keeping it simple. The cardboard, the last dollar, the coffee. She left out the parts about being homeless for 6 months, about losing everything. Those details felt too personal, too vulnerable. But Sal was perceptive. His eyes took in her backpack, her worn clothes, the way she held herself. He saw what Marco had seen but drew different conclusions. You gave him your last dollar, Sal said. Yes, sir. Why? It was the same question Dante had asked. Maya gave the same answer. Because he looked like he needed it. Sal was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, genuine warmth breaking through his hard exterior. My wife, God rest her soul, she used to do things like that. See someone in need and give them everything she had. Drove me crazy sometimes, but it was one of the reasons I loved her. He pulled out his wallet and extracted several bills. Here, for your trouble. Maya shook her head. I don't want money. I didn't do it for money. I know you didn't, but take it anyway. Call it payment for saving my nephew's life. I didn't. You put yourself between him and armed men. In my world, that Deserves compensation. Sal pressed the money into her hand. Maya glanced down and saw $500 bills. $500. More money than she'd seen in 6 months. This is too much, she said. It's exactly enough. Sal looked at Dante. She comes with you to the safe house. What? Dante and Maya said simultaneously. You heard me. Marco saw her face. More importantly, he saw her with you. By now, Luca knows there was a witness to the attempted pickup. Even if she's homeless, even if nobody usually listens to her, she's a loose end. Sal's expression was grim. And Luca doesn't like loose ends. Maya's stomach dropped. You're saying I'm in danger because I helped him? I'm saying you're in danger because you were seen with him. There's a difference. Sal put a hand on her shoulder, the same gesture Dante had made earlier. But I protect the people who help my family. That's how this works. You saved Dante, so now I save you. I don't need saving. Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet. A dark sedan pulled up to the curb. The driver, presumably Carlo, stayed behind the wheel, but Maya could see his eyes scanning the street, professional and alert. Get in, Sal said. Both of you. Carlo will take you to Queens. The house is secure, fully stocked. You'll have everything you need. Dante moved toward the car, then paused. Uncle Sal, how long will this take? Getting the commission to hear me out? As long as it takes. Could be a week, could be a month. Sal's voice was honest. Luca's got allies, Dante. He's been planning this for a while. I need time to counter his moves, to gather evidence that proves his accusations were fabricated. And if you can't, then we'll deal with that when we come to it. Sal opened the car door. Now go. Both of you. Stay low, stay quiet, and trust that I'm working on this. Maya looked at the open car door, at Dante already sliding into the back seat, at this sudden fork in her road. She could refuse. Could take the $500 and disappear into the city. Go back to her cardboard and her invisibility. But Marco had seen her face, and apparently that meant something in this world she'd accidentally stumbled into. I don't have a choice, do I? She asked Sal. You always have a choice, Maya. But some choices are smarter than others. She climbed into the car beside Dante. The leather seats were soft, luxurious. The interior smelled like expensive cologne and old money. It was warm, so warm after months of being cold. Carlo pulled away from the curb smoothly. Maya watched through the rear window as Sal stood on the sidewalk, phone already to his ear, making calls, moving pieces on a chessboard she couldn't see. I'm sorry, Dante said quietly. Maya turned to look at him. In the soft light of the car's interior, she could see the cut on his temple more clearly. It needed stitches. His suit, which had probably cost thousands, was ruined. He looked exhausted and dangerous and oddly vulnerable all at once. For what? She asked. For dragging you into this. For making you a target. He leaned his head back against the seat, closing his eyes. You gave me $1 and now your life is at risk. That's not exactly a fair exchange. Nothing in life is fair, Maya said. I learned that the hard way. Dante opened his eyes and looked at her, really looked at her, the way he had on the curb when their desperation had first recognized each other. Tell me your story, he said. The real one, not the edited version you gave Uncle Sal. Maya hesitated. She'd spent 6 months not telling her story, keeping her past buried, staying invisible. But something about this moment, sitting in this car with this strange, dangerous man who'd been stripped of everything just like her, made her want to speak. So she did. She told him about her father's cancer diagnosis, about the medical bills that arrived like an avalanche, crushing everything in their path, about insurance that covered almost nothing and treatments that cost everything, about choosing between her father's life and her own financial survival. It wasn't even a choice, Maya said. Of course I was going to pay for his treatment. Of course I was going to try everything. He was my father. He raised me alone after my mother left. He worked 2 jobs to put me through college. I owed him everything. Dante listened without interrupting, his dark eyes never leaving her face. The treatments didn't work, Maya continued. 6 months of chemotherapy, radiation, experimental drugs that cost more than a car, and in the end, he died anyway. He died and left me with $200,000 in medical debt. Jesus, Dante breathed. I tried to manage it. I was good at my job, made decent money, but the monthly payments were impossible. Then the hospital sold the debt to a collection agency. They came after everything, garnished my wages, froze my accounts, filed liens against any assets I had. Maya's voice stayed steady, but her hands were clenched in her lap. I lost my apartment first, then my car, then my job because I couldn't get to work consistently anymore. And then I lost everything else until all I had left was a backpack and a piece of cardboard. How long? Dante asked. 6 months on the streets. 183 days, to be exact. I kept count at first, then stopped because it was too depressing. The car was quiet except for the hum of the engine and the sound of traffic outside. They were crossing into Queens now, the Manhattan skyline falling away behind them. My mother died when I was 17, Dante said suddenly. Cancer, like your father. But we had money, so she got the best treatment, the best doctors. It didn't matter. She died anyway. He turned to look out the window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. My father was already in the life. Organized crime, the family business. He wanted me to follow him, to become what he was. But my mother made me promise, right before she died, that I'd try to be better, that I'd use my position to change things from the inside. Did you? Maya asked. I tried. Spent 20 years trying to legitimize our operations, to move away from violence and extortion toward legitimate businesses. Some of it worked. Most of it didn't. He laughed bitterly. And in the end, it didn't matter. Because my cousin Luca wanted power, and the easiest way to get it was to remove me. By framing you as an informant. By framing me as a rat. In my world, that's the worst thing you can be. Worse than a killer. Worse than a thief. A rat can't be trusted. Can't be allowed to live. Dante's jaw clenched. Luca knew that. He fabricated evidence, paid off witnesses, created a paper trail that made it look like I'd been cooperating with the FBI for months, and the commission believed him. But your uncle didn't. Uncle Sal knows me, knows I'd die before I betrayed the family. Dante turned back to her. But even his support might not be enough. If the commission votes against me again, if they decide Luca's evidence is convincing, then Uncle Sal's protection only delays the inevitable. Maya understood what he wasn't saying, that he was living on borrowed time, that every day might be his last, that the world he'd built had collapsed and might never be rebuilt. They were similar, she realized, both of them stripped of everything, both of them surviving on the kindness of people who had their own reasons for helping, both of them wondering if they'd ever find their way back to who they used to be. The car turned onto a quiet residential street. Modest houses, neat lawns, the kind of neighborhood where people minded their own business. Carlo pulled into the driveway of a 2-story colonial, painted white with blue shutters. It looked normal, suburban, completely at odds with the dangerous world it was hiding. "We're here," Carlo said. His voice was deep, rough with a lifetime of cigarettes. "Mr. Castellano says you're to stay inside. No going out, no phone calls, no contact with anyone until he gives the word." "How long?" Dante asked. Carlo shrugged. "As long as it takes." They got out of the car. Maya stood on the driveway, her backpack slung over her shoulder, and looked at the house that was about to become her prison or her sanctuary. She wasn't sure which. Dante walked to the front door. It was unlocked. Of course it was. In Sal's world, security didn't come from locks. It came from everyone knowing that this house was untouchable. Maya followed him inside. The interior was surprisingly nice. Clean, modern, furnished with comfortable furniture that looked lived in but well maintained. The kitchen was fully stocked, the refrigerator humming with fresh food. There were 3 bedrooms upstairs, 2 bathrooms, a finished basement. It was more space than Maya had occupied in 6 months, more comfort than she'd experienced in forever. She stood in the living room, overwhelmed by the normalcy of it all. A couch, a television, lamps that worked, heat that actually heated. "You can take the master bedroom," Dante said. "It has an attached bathroom. I'll take one of the smaller rooms. I can't take the master bedroom." "Maya, you've been sleeping on cardboard for 6 months. Take the damn master bedroom." She started to argue, then stopped. Pride was expensive, and she was tired of paying for it. "Okay," she said. "Thank you." Dante nodded. He walked to the kitchen, opened a cabinet, and pulled out a first aid kit. "I'm going to clean up this cut. You should take a shower. There's clothes in the bedroom closets. Uncle Sal keeps all the safe houses stocked for emergencies." Maya looked down at herself, at her dirty clothes, her worn sneakers. When was the last time she'd had a real shower? A week? 2 weeks? The public library had bathrooms, but they weren't exactly private. A shower sounds like heaven, she admitted. Then go. Take your bon. Time. Use all the hot water. We've got nothing but time now. Maya climbed the stairs, found the master bedroom. It was spacious, comfortable, with a king-sized bed that looked impossibly soft. The bathroom was clean and modern, with fluffy towels hanging on racks and expensive-looking toiletries lined up on the counter. She turned on the shower and waited for the water to heat up. While she waited, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. A stranger looked back. Gaunt face, hollow eyes, hair that hadn't been professionally cut in months. She looked like she'd been through a war, which, in a way, she had. The shower was everything Maya had dreamed about during those cold nights on the street. Hot water that never ran out, water pressure that actually worked, soap that smelled like vanilla and honey. She stood under the spray for 20 minutes, maybe 30, washing away months of grime and exhaustion. When she finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that was softer than anything she'd owned in her previous life, she felt almost human again. The closet held clothes in various sizes. Maya found jeans that fit reasonably well. A soft gray sweater, clean underwear and socks. Everything was simple, practical, but clean and whole. She dressed slowly, savoring the feeling of clean clothes against clean skin. It was such a small thing, but it felt monumental. When she went back downstairs, she found Dante in the kitchen. He'd cleaned the cut on his temple, which did indeed need stitches but would have to settle for butterfly bandages. He'd changed into jeans and a black t-shirt. Without the filthy suit, he looked younger, less imposing. "Better?" he asked. "So much better." "Good." He gestured to the stove where something was simmering. "I'm making pasta. Uncle Sal always stocks these houses with basics, and I figured we should eat something real." "You cook?" My mother insisted. Said no son of hers would grow up useless in a kitchen. Dante stirred the sauce, tasted it, added salt. It was one of the few normal things about my childhood. Maya sat at the kitchen table, watching him work. There was something surreal about this moment. 12 hours ago, she'd been sleeping on cardboard. Now she was in a safe house in Queens, watching a Mafia boss cook pasta, both of them hiding from his family. "This is insane," she said out loud. "Yeah," Dante agreed. "It really is. I gave you my last dollar. You did, and now I'm in a safe house, being protected by your uncle, hiding from people who want to kill you." "That's an accurate summary. Yes." Maya started laughing. She couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all. The complete chaos of how her life had spiraled in the space of a few hours. She laughed until tears ran down her face, until her stomach hurt, until Dante was staring at her with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I have no idea," Maya gasped between laughs. "I genuinely have no idea if I'm okay or if I've completely lost my mind." Dante smiled, a real smile this time. Probably both. He served the pasta on actual plates, with actual silverware, at an actual table. They ate in companionable silence, both too hungry and too overwhelmed for conversation. It was the best meal Maya had eaten in 6 months. Maybe longer. After dinner, Dante cleaned up while Maya explored the house more thoroughly. The basement was furnished like a recreation room, with a large TV, comfortable couches, even a small bar in the corner. The bedrooms upstairs were simple but comfortable. Everything about the house screamed temporary, a place to hide while the real world kept turning. But for now, it felt like sanctuary. Maya found herself back in the living room, standing at the window, looking out at the quiet street. Dante joined her, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "Found these in the cabinet," he said, offering her one. "I probably shouldn't drink. My tolerance is shot after months of not eating regularly." Then sip slowly. They stood, together at the window, drinking wine, watching nothing happen on the suburban street. "What happens now?" Maya finally asked. "Now we wait. Uncle Sal will work the commission, try to get them to agree to a formal hearing. If he succeeds, I'll have a chance to present my case, to prove Luca's evidence is fake. And if he doesn't succeed?" Dante was quiet for a long moment. "Then we figure out plan B. Is there a plan B? There's always a plan B. It's just usually not as good as plan A." Maya sipped her wine, feeling the warmth spread through her chest. "I don't belong in this world, Dante. I don't understand the rules, the politics. I'm just a financial analyst who ended up homeless." "You're more than that," Dante said quietly. "You're someone who gave everything she had to save her father. Someone who, even after losing it all, still had the capacity to show kindness to a stranger. He turned to look at her. That takes a special kind of strength, Maya. Or a special kind of timidity. Maybe both. He smiled. But I'm grateful for it. Whatever happens next, I'm grateful you were there this morning. Maya felt something shift in her chest. Connection, recognition. The dangerous beginning of caring about someone she barely knew. Me too, she said softly. They stood at the window as darkness fell over Queens. Two people who'd lost everything, finding something unexpected in the ruins. Outside, the world kept turning. Sal was making calls, moving pieces, fighting battles they couldn't see. Luca was planning his next move. The commission was debating, deciding, determining fates. But inside the safe house, for this one night, Maya and Dante were just two people sharing wine and pasta, and the strange comfort of shared desperation. It wouldn't last. Maya knew that. Tomorrow would bring complications, dangers, decisions that would test them both. But tonight, they had shelter. They had safety. They had each other. And sometimes, that was enough. Maya woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Dante's voice, low and urgent, speaking Italian. She lay in the impossibly soft bed for a moment, disoriented, before memory flooded back. The safe house. Queens. The past 24 hours that had turned her world upside down. She checked the clock on the nightstand. 7:30 in the morning. She'd slept for almost 12 hours. The deepest sleep she'd had in 6 months. Downstairs, Dante's voice grew louder, more agitated. Maya pulled on the jeans and sweater from yesterday and headed down to find him pacing the kitchen. Phone pressed to his ear, his free hand gesturing emphatically even though whoever he was talking to couldn't see him. I don't care what Marco told him. I want to know what the commission said. Pause. Uncle Sal, please. Just tell me. Maya moved quietly to the coffee pot and poured herself a cup, trying not to eavesdrop but unable to help it. 3 weeks? Dante's voice rose. They're making me wait 3 weeks for a lay. Hearing? Another pause, longer this time. When Dante spoke again, his voice was strained. I understand. Yes, I know you're doing everything you can. Thank you, Uncle Sal. He ended the call and stood there for a moment, staring at the phone in his hand like it had betrayed him. Bad news? Maya asked gently. Dante turned, seeming surprised she was there. The commission agreed to hear my case. That's the good news. The bad news is they won't schedule the hearing for 3 weeks. Luca's insisting he needs time to prepare his evidence, to gather his witnesses. 3 weeks in hiding. 3 weeks of my life on pause, while Luca gets to run my family, manage my businesses, consolidate his power. Dante set the phone down hard on the counter. By the time I get my hearing, there might not be anything left to fight for. Maya sipped her coffee, thinking, can Sal stall him? Prevent Luca from making major changes? To some extent, but Luca's smart. He'll make moves that look reasonable, necessary. By the time anyone realizes he's stealing the family out from under me, it'll be too late. Dante poured himself more coffee, his movements sharp with frustration. I should be out there fighting, not hiding in Queens. If you go out there, you die. Maybe, or maybe I take control of the situation before Luca can finish what he started. Maya set down her cup. That's a terrible plan. You have a better one? Yes. Stay alive long enough to prove your innocence at the hearing. She moved closer, catching his eyes. Dante, if you go out there now, Luca wins. He gets exactly what he wants you dead. No hearing, no chance to clear your name. Is that what you want? I want my life back. Then be patient. Wait for the hearing. Trust your uncle to hold things together. Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he exhaled slowly, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. You're right. I know you're right. I'm just not good at sitting still while other people fight my battles. Neither am I, Maya said. But sometimes sitting still is the bravest thing you can do. They drank their coffee in silence, both processing what 3 weeks of waiting meant. 3 weeks of being trapped in this house, cut off from the world, with nothing to do but think about everything they'd lost. We need a routine, Maya said finally. Structure. Otherwise, we'll both go crazy. What kind of routine? I don't know. Meals at regular times. Exercise. Maybe find something productive to do with all this free time. She looked around the kitchen. Does this place have books? TV? Internet? All three, But we're supposed to limit internet use. Too easy to track. Dante pulled open a drawer and extracted a remote. Uncle Sal keeps these houses stocked with DVDs. Probably 100 of them in the basement. So we'll watch movies, read, cook. Maya met his eyes. We'll survive the waiting, Dante. Together. Something shifted in his expression. Gratitude, maybe. Or relief at not having to face this alone. Together, he repeated. I like the sound of that. The first week passed in a strange bubble of domesticity. They fell into an unspoken routine. Mornings, Maya would wake first and make coffee while Dante went for a run on the treadmill in the basement. They'd have breakfast together, usually something simple: eggs, toast, fruit. Then they'd separate for a few hours. Maya would read from the extensive collection of books in the den, mostly thrillers and mysteries that someone had accumulated over years. Dante would disappear into one of the bedrooms with his phone, talking to Uncle Sal, getting updates, making plans. Afternoons, they'd reconvene in the living room. They watched movies, old classics that neither of them had seen in years. They argued about plots, debated character motivations, laughed at bad dialogue. It was normal in a way that felt almost surreal given the circumstances. Evenings, they cooked together. Dante taught Maya how to make proper marinara sauce, the kind his mother used to make. Maya showed him the chicken dish her father had perfected during her childhood. They ate at the kitchen table, sharing stories about their pasts, carefully avoiding the subjects that hurt too much. And late at night, when the house grew quiet, they'd sit in the living room with glasses of wine and talk about everything else. Books they'd loved, places they wanted to travel, dreams they'd had before life got complicated. I wanted to open my own firm, Maya admitted one night. Financial consulting for small businesses. Help people who couldn't afford the big corporate advisors. Why didn't you? Money, time, fear that I wasn't ready. She swirled her wine. And then my father got sick, and suddenly those dreams felt selfish. How could I think about starting a business when he needed me? Dante nodded slowly. I wanted to legitimize the family completely. Turn all our operations legal. Cut ties with the criminal side. My mother's dying wish. That's ambitious. That's impossible, Dante corrected. Or at least, that's what everyone told me. They said you can't wash away decades of blood and corruption. That the family business was what it was, and trying to change it would destroy everything. But you tried anyway. I tried. Made some progress too. We diversified into real estate, legitimate shipping, restaurants. But there was always another crisis, another reason to compromise, another situation where violence seemed like the only solution. He took a long drink. By the time I realized I was failing, Luca was already plotting to remove me. Do you regret it? Trying to change things? Dante was quiet for a moment. No, I regret not trying harder, not being smarter about it, but I don't regret attempting to honor my mother's wish. He looked at Maya. What about you? Do you regret spending everything to save your father? No, Maya said immediately. Even knowing it wouldn't work. Even knowing. I'd lose everything. I'd do it again. He was my father. He deserved every chance. Even if it meant losing yourself? Even then. They sat in comfortable silence, each processing their own losses, their own choices. Maya, Dante said finally, when this is over, when the hearing happens and hopefully clears my name, what will you do? Maya hadn't let herself think that far ahead. The future felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. I don't know, she admitted. Find a job, I guess. Get an apartment. Start rebuilding. And the debt? The $200,000? Still there. Still impossible. But I'll figure something out. I always do. Dante leaned forward, his expression serious. What if you didn't have to figure it out alone? What do you mean? I mean, when I get my family back, when I have access to my resources again, I want to help you. Pay off the debt. Set you up with a real start. Maya shook her head immediately. Dante, no. I can't accept that. Why not? Because it's too much. Because I don't want charity. Because you're proud and stubborn, and you've been taking care of yourself for so long that accepting help feels like weakness. Dante's voice was gentle. I understand, Maya. But pride is expensive, and you've already paid more than anyone should have to. I gave you $1. That doesn't mean you owe me $200,000. No, but it means I want to help. It means that in a world where most people look away from suffering, you looked directly at it and gave what you could. He set down his wine glass. Let me do the same. Please. Maya felt tears threatening. Why do you care so much? Because you remind me of my mother. Because helping you feels like honoring her memory. Because in the past week, you've become the closest thing I have to a friend. Dante's voice dropped. And because when I thought I'd lost everything, you showed me that kindness still existed. That's worth more than money, Maya. But money can still help. She wiped at her eyes roughly. If you clear your name, if you get your family back, if all of that works out, then we'll talk about it. That's not a no. That's not a yes either. Dante smiled. I'll take it. The second week was harder. The novelty of the safe house had worn off, replaced by cabin fever and mounting tension. Uncle Sal's updates were increasingly grim. Luca was making moves, consolidating power, meeting with the other families. He was building his case, gathering witnesses, some legitimate, many paid off to testify against Dante at the hearing. He's got 3 people claiming they saw me meeting with FBI agents, Dante told Maya after a particularly tense call with Sal. All of them are lying, but their stories are consistent. Luca's coached them well. Can Sal find evidence they're lying? He's trying, but Luca's been careful. The meeting supposedly happened in private locations with no cameras, no records. It's his word against mine, and he's got witnesses. Maya could see the stress building in Dante. He was sleeping less, pacing more, his temper shorter. The forced inactivity was destroying him from the inside. We need to do something, Maya said one afternoon when Dante had been pacing the living room for an hour straight. Like what? We're trapped here. We're safe here, Maya corrected. There's a difference. And just because we can't go out doesn't mean we can't be productive. Productive how? Maya thought about it. Your case. The hearing. You need to prepare a defense, right? Evidence that proves Luca's lying? Sal's handling that. Sal's handling the commission side. But you know your own life better than anyone. You know where you were on the days Luca claims you were meeting with the FBI. You know who can vouch for you. Dante stopped pacing. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we build your defense ourselves. Create a timeline, gather evidence, find witnesses who can contradict Luca's story. Maya stood up, energized by the idea. I used to do forensic accounting. I analyzed financial records, found discrepancies, built cases. This isn't that different. Maya, this isn't corporate fraud. This is my life. I know, which is why we need to do everything possible to save it. She moved to the desk in the corner and pulled out paper and pens. Come on, let's start with the dates Luca claims you met with the FBI. Where were you really? For a moment, Dante just stared at her. Then slowly, he smiled. You're serious. Completely serious. We have 3 weeks until the hearing. Let's use them. They worked through the afternoon and into the evening. Dante recounted his movements over the past 6 months, trying to remember specific dates, locations, witnesses. Maya took notes, organized information, created timelines. Her mind, dormant for months on the street, came alive with the work. April 15th, Dante said, consulting his phone's calendar. Luca claims I met with an FBI agent at a restaurant in Brooklyn. But I was in Atlantic City that day, meeting with the Genovese family about a shipping contract. Can anyone confirm that? Uncle Sal was there. So was their underboss, Tommy Falcone. Maya wrote it down. What about April 23rd? That's the day Luca says I was seen entering the FBI field office in Lower Manhattan. Dante thought hard. I was home that day. Had the flu, barely left my bedroom. Witnesses? My housekeeper, Maria. My driver, Carlo. They both saw me. Good. Write down their contact information. We'll have Sal reach out to them. They worked late into the night, building a comprehensive defense. Maya's accounting background proved invaluable. She spotted inconsistencies in Luca's timeline, noticed dates that didn't make sense, flagged expenses that contradicted Dante's supposed FBI meetings. Look at this, she said around midnight, pointing to printouts of Dante's credit card statements that Sal had managed to secure. April 23rd, the day you were supposedly at the FBI office, your card was used at a pharmacy in your neighborhood at 10 a.m. and at a local restaurant at 1 p.m. Both transactions require a PIN, which means you had to be there personally. Dante leaned over her shoulder, studying the statements. How did I miss that? Because you were panicking. Because when someone accuses you of something terrible, your brain focuses on defending yourself emotionally, not building a logical case. Maya circled the transactions with a red pen, but this is hard evidence. Luca can't explain how you were in two places at once." For the first time in days, hope flickered in Dante's eyes. This could work. It will work. We just need to keep digging. By the end of the second week, they had a comprehensive defense. A timeline that accounted for every day Luca claimed Dante was meeting with the FBI. Credit card statements, witness testimonies, security footage from buildings Dante had been in during the crucial times. The evidence was circumstantial but compelling. "Sal needs to see this," Dante said, looking at the organized files spread across the desk. "Call him. Tell him to come tomorrow." Dante made the call. Sal arrived the next morning, accompanied by Carlo and another man Maya didn't recognize. They sat in the living room while Maya and Dante presented their findings. Sal listened carefully, taking notes, asking clarifying questions. When they finished, he sat back and studied them both. "This is good work," he said finally. "Really good. Some of this evidence I already had, but you've connected pieces I missed. The credit card statements alone could destroy Luca's timeline." "So we have a case?" Dante asked. "You have a strong case. Whether it's strong enough depends on the commission." Sal's expression was cautious. "Luca's got powerful allies, Dante. They want to believe his version because it serves their interests. But this evidence, presented correctly, could create enough reasonable doubt to force a second vote." "A second vote?" "The original vote to strip your position was close, 4-3 against you. If we can flip even one vote, we force a tie, which means you keep your position pending a more thorough investigation." Sal gestured to the files. "This evidence could be that tiebreaker." Maya felt a surge of hope. "So the hearing might actually work?" "It might. It's not guaranteed, but you've given us a real chance." Sal looked at Dante. "Your mother would be proud. She always said the best weapon is truth." Dante's throat worked. "Thank you, Uncle Sal." "Don't thank me yet. Thank her." Sal nodded at Maya. "She's the one who pushed you to fight smart instead of just fighting." After Sal left with copies of all their evidence, Maya and Dante stood in the kitchen, exhausted but energized. "We did it," Dante said, something like wonder in his voice. "We actually built a defense. We're not done yet. The hearing is still a week away. Luca might make countermoves. He will. That's guaranteed." Dante turned to her. "But Maya, regardless of what happens at the hearing, thank you. For the past 2 weeks, for the work, for making me believe I might actually survive this." "You're going to do more than survive," Maya said firmly. "You're going to win." The third week brought unexpected complications. It started with a phone call at 3 a.m. Maya woke to shouting downstairs. She pulled on a robe and found Dante in the living room, phone pressed to his ear, his face pale. "When?" he demanded. "How bad?" A pause. "Jesus. Okay. Yeah, I understand." He ended the call and stood there for a moment, swaying slightly. "Dante?" Maya asked. "What happened?" "Marco. Luca's enforcer. The one who came after me on 9th Avenue. Dante's voice was hollow. "He's dead. Shot 3 times in a parking garage in Brooklyn. Police are calling it a gang hit." Maya's stomach dropped. "Who killed him?" "I don't know, but the timing is suspicious. 1 week before my hearing, Luca's main witness against me turns up dead." Dante met her eyes. "This looks very, very bad for me." "But you've been here the whole time. You have an alibi." "Do I?" "As far as the commission knows, I'm in hiding somewhere, location unknown. For all they know, I could have ordered the hit from this very house." Maya shook her head. "Sal knows you're here. Carlo knows. They can vouch for you. Family vouching for family doesn't carry much weight in these situations." Dante sank onto the couch, head in his hands. "Luca planned this. He killed his own man to frame me for it. To prove I'm dangerous, violent, exactly what he's been claiming all along. Then we prove otherwise. We find evidence that clears you of Marco's death, just like we found evidence for the FBI allegations. Maya, this isn't accounting. This is murder. And I'm the obvious suspect." "You're the obvious patsy," Maya corrected. She sat beside him, taking his hand. "Dante, think. Luca needs you to look guilty. He needs the commission to see you as violent and desperate. Marco's death serves that purpose perfectly. So what do? We don't panic. We tell Sal immediately. We make sure the timeline of Marco's death is documented and doesn't match with any time you could have ordered it." Maya squeezed his hand. "And we trust that the truth will come out." But the truth was slippery. Over the next few days, More details emerged about Marco's death. He'd been killed execution style, professional work. No witnesses, no camera footage, no evidence except the body. And according to sources, Marco had been preparing to testify at Dante's hearing, had been ready to contradict Luca's version of events. His death was convenient for someone who didn't want that testimony heard. The obvious suspect was Dante, but the less obvious suspect was Luca himself. "He's eliminating loose ends," Sal said during an emergency meeting at the safe house. Marco knew too much about how Luca fabricated evidence. Better to kill him and blame Dante than risk him flipping at the hearing. "Can we prove that?" Dante asked. "Not definitively. But we can plant reasonable doubt. Make the commission wonder if Luca's playing them." Sal pulled out a file. "I've got financial records showing large payments from Luca to Marco in the weeks before your coup. Enough money to suggest Marco was being paid for something more than routine work. Like lying about FBI meetings," Maya said. "Exactly. If we can show Marco was on Luca's payroll for fabricated testimony, then his death becomes less about Dante silencing a witness and more about Luca cleaning up his mess." The hearing was scheduled for Monday morning at 10 a.m. Location was a private social club in Manhattan, neutral territory where the commission met to handle family business. The night before, Maya couldn't sleep. She found Dante in the kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at the files they'd prepared, double-checking, everything for the 100th time. "You should rest," she said. "Can't. Too wired." He looked up at her. "What if it's not enough, Maya? What if we did all this work and the commission still votes against me? Then we figure out plan B. There is no plan B. If they vote against me tomorrow, I'm done. Luca gets everything, and I spend the rest of my life running." Maya sat across from him. "Or fighting, or finding new allies, or exposing Luca's corruption to the other families." She reached across the table and took his hand. "Dante, I spent 6 months on the street thinking I'd lost everything forever, but I survived. And so will you. It's not the same. It's exactly the same. You've lost your position, your family, your life as you knew it. But you're still here. You're still breathing. You still have people who believe in you." She squeezed his hand. "That's not nothing." Dante looked at their joined hands. "When did you become the optimistic one?" "Around the time you gave me. A reason to hope again." Something passed between them in that moment. Recognition that had been building for 3 weeks. Attraction that neither of them had acknowledged. Connection that went deeper than shared desperation. "Maya," Dante said quietly, "if tomorrow goes badly, if I have to run, I want you to know." "Don't," she interrupted. "Don't say goodbye yet. We haven't lost. But if we do, then you'll owe me a really nice dinner to make up for all the emotional trauma." Maya smiled, trying to lighten the moment. "And I expect Italian, from a restaurant with actual tablecloths." Dante laughed despite himself. "Deal." They sat in the quiet kitchen, holding hands, both knowing that tomorrow would change everything. One way or another, the waiting was over. The hearing would decide Dante's fate, and by extension, Maya's. Because somewhere over the past 3 weeks, his fight had become her fight. His survival had become essential to her own. She didn't want to examine that feeling too closely, didn't want to name what was happening between them. But sitting in that kitchen at 2 a.m., holding the hand of a man who'd lost everything just like she had, Maya knew one truth with absolute certainty. Whatever happened tomorrow, they'd face it together. And that was enough. The commission met in a private room on the 3rd floor of Dante's social club, an establishment that had been in the Castellano family for 3 generations. The room was windowless, soundproofed, designed for conversations that couldn't be overheard. A long mahogany table dominated the space, surrounded by leather chairs where 7 men sat in judgment. Maya wasn't allowed inside. She waited in the car with Carlo, parked half a block away, watching the entrance like it might provide answers through sheer force of will. "He'll be okay," Carlo said, though his tone suggested he was trying to convince himself as much as Maya. "Mr. Sal knows what he's doing, and if Luca's influence is stronger than Sal's knowledge..." Carlo didn't answer. They both knew that was a real possibility. Inside the club, Dante sat at one end of the table, Uncle Sal beside him. At the other end sat Luca, flanked by his own advisors. Between them, the 7 members of the commission. 5 men in their 50s and 60s, 1 woman in her 70s, all of them representing different families, different territories, different interests. Vincent Tartaglia, head of the Brooklyn operations, spoke first. We're here to address the allegations against Dante Castellano. The charges are serious cooperation with federal authorities, sharing family secrets, compromising our operations. His voice was formal, carrying the weight of procedure. Dante, you've requested this hearing to refute these charges. You'll have 30 minutes to present your case. Then Luca will have 30 minutes to present his. The commission will deliberate and vote. Dante stood, his expression calm despite the stakes. Thank you for this opportunity. I know the evidence against me appears damning, but I'm here to show you that evidence was fabricated by someone with everything to gain from my removal. He spent the next 30 minutes methodically dismantling Luca's case. The credit card statements that proved he was nowhere near the alleged FBI meetings. The witness testimonies from people who could account for his whereabouts. The financial records showing Luca paying Marco and other witnesses large sums of money right before their accusations. Marco Giordano, Dante said, pulling out bank statements, received $50,000 from Luca 3 days before, claiming he saw me enter the FBI field office. That same day, I was in Atlantic City, witnessed by Mr. Tartaglia himself at the shipping negotiations. Vincent Tartaglia nodded slowly. I do remember that meeting. And yet Marco swore under oath he saw me in Manhattan. Dante let that sink in. Why would he lie? The answer is simple: because Luca paid him to. Luca stood abruptly. That's a serious accusation. It's a documented fact. The bank records are here for anyone to review. Uncle Sal stood next, adding his voice. The commission needs to ask itself a simple question. Who benefits from Dante's removal? Who has the most to gain? Luca orchestrated a coup, and when Dante called for this hearing to clear his name, suddenly Luca's main witness turns up dead. Convenient timing. Are you suggesting I killed Marco? Luca's face was red. I'm suggesting Marco knew his testimony was fabricated. I'm suggesting he might have been planning to come clean at this hearing, and I'm suggesting someone with a lot to lose decided to silence him permanently. The room erupted in arguments. Commission members talked over each other, some defending Luca, others questioning the evidence. It took Vincent Tartaglia 10 minutes to restore order. We'll hear from Luca now, Tartaglia said firmly. Luca's defense was smooth, practiced. He acknowledged the financial payments to Marco but claimed they were for legitimate security work. He produced his own witnesses, men who swore they'd seen Dante acting suspiciously, meeting with unknown individuals, asking questions that suggested cooperation with authorities. But his evidence was thinner than Dante's. More hearsay, less documentation. And the death of Marco hung over everything, an unspoken question that poisoned Luca's credibility. When both sides had presented, the commission deliberated for 2 hours. Dante and Luca were sent to separate rooms to wait. Uncle Sal joined Dante, bringing him water, trying to read the mood from the closed-door session. It's close, Sal said. Tartaglia is leaning your way. So is Maria Genovese, but the others are split. What do I need? 4 votes to clear you completely. 3 and we force a tie, which means a retrial in 6 months. Sal gripped Dante's shoulder. You did good in there, nephew. Really good. The credit card evidence was damning to Luca's case. Maya found that. All of it. She's the one who built the defense. Then she's earned her protection, whatever happens. The commission called them back at 4 p.m. Vincent Tartaglia stood at the head of the table, his expression grave. The commission has reviewed all evidence and testimony. We've considered the charges against Dante Castellano, the defense presented, and the suspicious circumstances surrounding Marco Giordano's death. Dante felt his heart pounding. Everything came down to the next words. Our vote is as follows. 4 members vote to reinstate Dante Castellano to his full position, finding insufficient evidence of cooperation with federal authorities. 3 members vote to maintain the original ruling, citing concerns about Dante's judgment and leadership. Relief flooded through Dante so powerfully he almost collapsed. However, Tartaglia continued, the commission has concerns about the internal conflict this situation has created. Therefore, we're implementing a 6-month oversight period. Dante will resume his position, but all major decisions must be approved by a 3-member advisory board, which will include Salvatore Castellano, Maria Genovese, and myself. It wasn't complete vindication, but it was victory. Dante had his life back. He looked across the table at Luca, whose face had gone white with shock and rage. For just a moment, their eyes met. Dante saw the promise there: this isn't over. But for now, it was enough. Outside, Maya saw them emerge from the club. Dante walked with Uncle Sal, his posture straighter than it had been in weeks. When he spotted the car, he smiled. A real smile. A winning smile. Maya was out of the car before Carlo could stop her, running toward Dante like gravity itself was pulling her forward. He caught her as she reached him, lifting her off the ground in a hug that lifted them both. "We won," he said into her hair. "Maya, we won." "I told you," she gasped, laughing and crying at the same time. "I told you we would." Uncle Sal watched them with an expression that was part approval, part concern. He recognized what was happening between them, the connection that had formed in the crucible of survival. "Come on," Sal said. "Let's get you both out of here before Luca decides to make a scene." They drove back to the safe house, but only to collect their things. Dante was going home to his real home, his penthouse in Manhattan, his life. "You're coming with me," he told Maya as they packed. "The penthouse has plenty of space. You'll stay there until we figure out your next steps." "Dante, I can't impose." "You're not imposing. You're accepting help from someone who owes you everything." He caught her hand. "Maya, please. Let me do this." She wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her independence, but the truth was, she had nowhere else to go. The streets were waiting, cold and cruel as ever. "Okay," she said quietly, "but just until I find a job, until I can get on my feet. Whatever you want." The penthouse was stunning, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, modern furniture, a kitchen that belonged in a magazine. It was luxury Maya had only imagined, wealth she'd never touched. Dante showed her to a guest room that was bigger than the apartment she'd lost 6 months ago. "Make yourself at home," he said. "Anything you need, just ask." That night, they ordered Italian food from the restaurant with tablecloths Dante had promised. They ate on the terrace, watching the city lights sparkle below them, both processing how dramatically their lives had changed in 3 weeks. "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Now I rebuild. Figure out what Luca damaged, fix what I can, strengthen my position so this never happens again." Dante looked at her. "And I help you rebuild too. Starting with that medical debt." "Dante, I already made the calls. My lawyers are negotiating with the collection agency. We'll settle the debt for a fraction of what they're claiming you owe. It's standard practice they bought your debt for pennies on the dollar, so they'll accept a settlement that still gives them profit." Maya felt tears threatening. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. You saved my life, Maya, multiple times. Let me return the favor." She looked out at the city, at all the lights representing all the lives being lived, and felt something shift inside her. Hope. Real hope. The kind that wasn't just about surviving another day, but about actually building a future. "Thank you," she whispered. Dante moved closer, his hand finding hers on the terrace railing. "Thank you for giving me your last dollar, for seeing me when I was invisible, for fighting beside me when you could have walked away." They stood there, hands clasped, the city sprawling below them like a promise. And Maya thought about how 3 weeks ago she'd been sleeping on cardboard, convinced the world had forgotten her. Now she stood on a terrace in a penthouse, holding hands with a man who'd lost everything and fought his way back. Both of them broken, both of them healing, both of them learning that sometimes the smallest kindness, a dollar, a cup of coffee, a moment of seeing another person's humanity could change everything. "What are you thinking?" Dante asked. Maya smiled. "That I'm glad I gave you my last dollar. Best investment you ever made? The very best." 3 months later, Maya sat in her own office. Not a penthouse, not luxury, but hers. A small consulting firm, helping small businesses with financial planning. The kind of work that mattered, that helped people like her father who couldn't afford the big corporate advisors. The medical debt was settled. She'd paid $50,000 total, a fraction of the original amount, negotiated down by Dante's lawyers who knew exactly how to work the system. She had an apartment now, a small 1-bedroom in Brooklyn. She had furniture she'd picked out herself, clothes that fit, a life that was slowly becoming recognizable again. And every Sunday, she had dinner with Dante, sometimes at his penthouse, sometimes at her apartment, sometimes just the two of them, sometimes with Uncle Sal joining them. They cooked together, argued about movies, talked about their weeks. The attraction that had sparked in the safe house had grown into something deeper. Something neither of them rushed, but both acknowledged was there. Waiting. One Sunday evening, as they cleaned up after dinner, Dante caught her hand. "Maya," he said, "I've been thinking." Dangerous. Serious. I've been thinking about that morning on Ninth Avenue, about how you gave me your last dollar when you had every reason to keep it. I remember. That dollar saved my life. But more than that, it reminded me that there was still good in the world, that people could still surprise you. He pulled her closer. I want to spend more time with those kinds of surprises, with that kind of goodness. What are you saying? I'm saying I'd like to take you to dinner. A real date. No mob hearings, no hiding, just us. Maya smiled, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Just us? Just us, if you want. She thought about everything they'd been through. The desperation, the danger, the 3 weeks of building a defense and learning each other's stories. She thought about how he'd seen her when she was invisible, how he'd fought for her protection, how he'd helped her rebuild without making her feel small. I want, she said. Dante smiled, that rare expression that transformed his whole face. Good, because I've been wanting to kiss you for about 3 months, and I was really hoping you'd say yes to the date first. You could have just asked. I'm asking now. Maya kissed him, right there in her small Brooklyn kitchen, with dish soap on her hands and her hair in a messy bun. She kissed in him, and felt like she was finally home. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Dante rested his forehead against hers. Best dollar I ever received, he murmured. Maya laughed. Best dollar I ever gave. Outside, the city hummed with life. Millions of stories, millions of people, all of them fighting their own battles. Some would win, some would lose, some would find unexpected salvation in the kindness of strangers. Maya had been broken, homeless, invisible. Dante had been betrayed, hunted, stripped of everything. They'd both lost it all, but they'd found each other. And sometimes, that was how the best stories began. With $1, with a cup of coffee, with someone seeing your humanity when the rest of the world looked away, with small kindness that rippled out into something bigger than either of them could have imagined. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.